Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Caderna podcast. I'm Brian Caderna. So today I had an awesome conversation with our guest, Dave Kerpen. I'm going to give you a quick bio if you're not familiar with him. He's a very busy guy. It was tough getting this one on the books, so we condensed a lot of really good insights and information into about a half hour. So one of the quickest interviews I had to do, but it's action-packed, jam-packed with all the things you need to hear. So you're going to enjoy this one. But who is Dave Kerpen? So Dave is a serial entrepreneur. And when I say serial entrepreneur, he's done a lot in the business world. He's also a New York Times bestselling author, and he's a globally recognized keynote speaker. Dave first founded Likeable Local, a platform empowering small businesses in the digital marketing landscape. And then through his best-selling books like Likeable Social Media and The Art of People, he's become a thought leader in social media marketing and relationship building. Dave is also the owner and co-founder of Apprentice, which is a really cool company I'm going to put in the show notes. And Apprentice is a platform that connects the brightest college students in our country with entrepreneurs and business leaders around the world to help them tackle their toughest tasks in business. So it's a really cool kind of matchmaking website of young talent and some of the best and brightest minds in the world. So definitely want to check that one out. You might even be able to participate in it. All right, so that is Dave Kerpen in a nutshell. Today, we cover everything from how he got to be such an entrepreneur. His story that we start with is one I actually didn't even know ahead of time that was really eye-opening. So I'm not going to put any spoiler alert in there, but we get right into it. And then we even get into how he wants to change the world. So this was a wide-ranging conversation, great insights from an entrepreneur, businessman, and best-selling author. Here is Dave Kerpen.
Is going to require work and time and sweat and toil.
If money wasn't an issue, what would I be doing?
Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out.
Change is the only constant.
The Caderna Podcast.
Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Brian.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. I know you're a busy guy. Maybe if we can go back to the genesis of it all, when did you first get that entrepreneurial itch?
Yeah, well, if I go really far back, when I was in college, I wanted a job, make some money, and I ended up working at the ballpark. Big baseball fan. I worked at Fenway Park in the Boston Garden as a ballpark vendor. And what most people don't know about the vending business is it's very entrepreneurial. You're paid based on how much you sell. It's commission only, basically. So, and it's also a seniority based system. So you have to work for years to get the hot dogs or the peanut or the beer. That's where the biggest money is at. So my first day on the job, I had the worst selling product in the building called Crunch and Munch, and I sold 6 boxes and I got paid the legal minimum. And I came back the second day determined to make more money and developed a whole shtick. Before long, I had become a bit of a local celebrity as the Crunch and Munch guy. And, I went from that 6 boxes that first night and getting paid $25 to selling hundreds of boxes a night and making over $1,000 a night. And while a college student, that obviously $1,000 for a few hours work is pretty awesome. And that's where I fell in love with the idea of building things and selling and kind of taking control of your own destiny with respect to entrepreneurship. And then, but I still wasn't an official entrepreneur. And then when some years later, when I got married, that was my next sort of pseudo entrepreneurial endeavor. My wife and I couldn't afford a traditional wedding, but we wanted a very large wedding, and we partnered with the Brooklyn Cyclones, the minor league affiliate of the Mets, to create a ballpark wedding promotion called Our Field of Dreams. And we sold sponsorships to 1-800-Flowers.com, who sponsored our flowers, and David's Bridal, who sponsored our bridesmaids gowns, and Entenmann's, who sponsored our desserts, and so on and so forth. Smirnoff sponsored the alcohol. And we raised $100,000 for an awesome wedding, $20,000 for charity. And it was awesome because I got married to the love of my life in front of 5,000 people, but turned out to be a very successful marketing event as well. We generated so much publicity for our vendors that they came back, and 1-800-Flowers.com and Entenmann's both said to us, "This was so great! What a great promotion! What are you guys going to do next?" And we couldn't get married again, so we started a business together. So that was the official start of my entrepreneurial career with my first company, a marketing company that we sold a couple of years ago. And
So that was like your first splash was your actual wedding, or were you like trying things out prior to that?
no, I was well, like I said, the Crunch and Munch guy. I mean, I worked for another company, but that sort of felt very entrepreneurial. But then, no, I was working for Disney. I was a teacher for a few years. So, no, that was really the first entrepreneurial, like official entrepreneurial endeavor that we did.
Huh.
Yeah.
Was your wife like on board with the whole business idea, or was she like, "What the heck are you talking about doing this big sponsored wedding thing?"
It was her idea. Yeah. So
Really?
it was really her idea first. She's the brains and the beauty in the partnership. Um, she actually came to me before we were engaged, and she said, while we were dating, she said, "Dave, I have this killer idea. I know you're gonna love it, but I don't want to. I don't want you to. I don't want to get engaged because you love the idea." Um, so she came to me the idea, and I was like, absolutely, it was brilliant. We pitched the GM of the Brooklyn Cyclones, and he said, "This is one of the craziest ideas I've ever heard, but something about you two, I think it'll work, and I'm going to give you a shot." And he was wonderful to work with, and
Mhm.
yeah, it was really, I mean, puns notwithstanding, we hit it out of the park. Actually, it's funny because I usually use a virtual background. So for those of you watching the video right now, one of the I mentioned all the media. This was the front cover of a newspaper that we were on when we got married that I showed behind me in my office, and we generated just tons and tons of media, New York Times and ABC World News Tonight, and all sorts of just really, it was a really, really valuable marketing promotion for our vendors too. Like 1-800-Flowers.com, they spent $7,000 in flowers and had something like $20 million worth of earned media equivalents from all the TV that they got out of it. So they were obviously very, very happy.
Wow. So when you started, I know it began, you're pitching the Crunch and Munch at the ballpark, and then you have the big wedding. Did you know? Because I think like when I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, they have that makeup, like they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't know where to apply that skill. Did you know like you wanted to get into marketing or PR or social media? Like, did you know where to look first?
No, no, not really. I think a lot of people really, it's trial and error, right? So I was studying elementary education when I was in school and psychology, and the Crunch and Munch guy gig made me fall in love with marketing, branding, not social media, PR. And then the wedding is really what crystallized like, wow, you could build something out of this and you could build a business. But we were, even after the wedding, I was still teaching for a year, and we said that summer after that year, we said, if you can generate enough clients to pay for health insurance for our then daughter, we will you can leave teaching full time and we'll pursue this full time, and we did, and the rest is history. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people out there have ideas. And
Mhm.
ideas are great, but much more valuable is like figuring it out and actually going for it, and managing the risk carefully so as to put your ideas into play ultimately.
Okay. And kind of a question to piggyback on that, you mentioned managing the risk, like as you want to execute as an entrepreneur. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs will say, that kind of old mentality of just burn the ships. Like you got to go all in. Like failure's not an option. This is it. We're going for broke. And what's like your take on that? Do you think that's kind of crazy, or do you think it should be a more methodical, like, oh, I always have a plan B type of approach?
Yeah, no, I'm much more the latter category. I mean, crazy is not necessarily the right word, but I'm definitely not in that camp. I It also depends on where you are in life. So if you're an
Hmm.
18-year-old and with absolutely nothing to lose, yeah, sure, go for it. Work 80 hours a week and make it, eat, sleep, and breathe the business until you make it work. If you're a little older, if you have a mortgage, if you have a kid, if you have responsibilities, you have to manage risk carefully. You have to think about these things, and you have to
Mhm.
have a plan B. To your point, it's just foolish not to. And so sometimes things work out, but we have this. There's this. There's a myth about an entrepreneur. There's a myth about the Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates building the big business from their garage or dorm room entrepreneur. And there are some people that do it that way, but that is a very very small fraction of successful entrepreneurs. There are many, 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 many more entrepreneurs who are in their 20s and 30s and 40s and have lived life a little bit and have learned and are thinking, here's a problem I see, and here's how we can solve this problem. Here's the resources that it's going to take. Here's the number of hours that I'm willing to commit. And to your point, being more methodical about their approach.
Yeah, be a little more calculated. I think that's how most people would embrace it and say, okay, it can be kind of a comfortable mission and not one that's terrifying. So kind of along those lines, I always like to get guests, advice on some of these, especially for young professionals. So what are like, or maybe one way to phrase this is like, are the things you pursue, are they all organic in the sense that it's like an idea you had, something you saw, or are you at a stage now where like everybody and their brother is pitching Dave an idea and you digest that and pick one? Like, what's kind of your vetting process of like, okay, this is my next venture?
So unfortunately, so yes and yes is the answer, right? So with my investor, because I do some investing, with my investor hat on, yeah, folks are often pitching me their ideas.
Mhm.
And if I like the idea enough and the team enough, and the traction enough, which are the three main criterias for that I use and most people use for investing, then we'll talk about investment. For my own sort of entrepreneurial ventures, yeah,
Mhm.
it's got to be my own idea and thinking through a problem that I'm solving. So, perfect example. In the beginning of the pandemic, my mom passed away, and we didn't have the ability to all get together for her funeral. So we did a Zoom funeral and brought people together from all over the country, all over the world, and it was amazing. And I realized literally during the ceremony that a lot of other people would have this problem that I had. And so I quickly partnered with a few people, my brother and a couple of friends, and we built a virtual memorial services company within a few weeks. And we built it out and ended up doing $800,000 of revenue, helping hundreds of families, grieve together during the pandemic. It was a relatively short-lived business because after the pandemic, like obviously people now would get together in real life for a funeral. But during that time, we were able to take a problem and an idea and quickly turn it into reality and help a lot of people and make a few bucks along the way. So to me, that's what entrepreneurs do. They find problems in their own worlds and they think through potential solutions and then make it a reality.
And like to that point, do you feel you're at a stage where you have an idea maybe like that, and it's like, okay, once I've got an idea, I have a model that I can just throw that idea in there, and then we'll crank out a business in a couple weeks? Because I think a lot of people, like you said, they have the idea, but they're a teacher, they're a cop, they're doing whatever, and they're like, I don't know where to go with this, but it could be such a great idea. Um, do you feel like it's like you can just replicate things quicker now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a muscle. So it's like anything, like the more you use it, the better you get at using it. And um, like I said, for my first business, I was a teacher and we were like doing a lot of work to figure out whether I could leave teaching to pursue it full time. And it was a far from a immediate, like the example I just gave of the virtual memorial service business was several businesses later and like almost, let's see, 2003, almost 20 years later, right? So it's a
Yeah.
muscle. So my advice, um if you haven't done it before, is start flexing the muscle and be patient with yourself, right? Like It doesn't have to happen within 2 weeks. It can happen within 2 years, but it's not gonna happen overnight ever. So it's doing the work day after day, week after week. And if you're a firefighter and you want to build a business, you can't sit there with an idea feeling paralyzed. You have to move through that fear and say, okay, I'm going to work on this every day. I'm going to work on this for 10 minutes a day. And I'm going to build a team, and I'm going to investigate this, and I'm going to learn how to build a website or whatever it is. And that's how you can make progress over time.
And so, like, I mean, as you're taking in these different ideas, so if we kind of put on that other hat, the investor hat, how are you vetting these ideas? Is it just purely finance? You're looking, hey, you want X amount of dollars, we'll partner up, equity, so on and so forth. Or do you say, I just want to look at the person that I'm partnering with, or I'm just going to look at the idea and I'm loyal to the idea? Do you have kind of a process that you take that opportunity through? Please excuse this brief interruption. I hope you're enjoying the conversation with Dave Kerpen so far, but I'd just like to remind everyone that today's episode is brought to you by my free weekly newsletter called Weekly Wealthy Wisdoms. Please sign up and join the tens of thousands of subscribers that are already getting my latest and greatest insights on all things health, wealth, and just living a good life. It's a 3-minute read with some of the coolest things I've seen in the week. You definitely want to check it out. Head over to www.briancaderna.com and you can sign up for free right at the top of my webpage. Now back to Dave Kerpen.
The person is most important, and it's not close.
Okay.
So almost every business changes a lot. I just got a text right before this podcast from a woman we invested in, who when we first invested in her, she had a gelato business, and it went from gelato to chocolate. She did very well with chocolate, but she's just now developed chocolate covered espresso beans that are amazing. By the way, I'm going to give it a shout out because I can. And the company is called Bon Apple Sweet. Wonderful, wonderful business. And I think the chocolate espresso beans are going to be what takes her to, huge, huge level and makes me a lot of money in the long run. But when I invested in her, it was a gelato business. So it wasn't anything near chocolate covered espresso beans. My point is, the idea matters, but the person matters a lot more. And the traction isn't necessarily I said there's 3 things that matter: the person, the idea, and the traction. The traction isn't necessarily the traction with any specific idea. It's what traction shows me is the ability to take an idea and move towards building a real business with that idea, even if that ends up not being the actual successful business. So take this woman, Teresa, who we invested in with Bon Apple Sweet. When she came to us, she had very small gelato business and an idea about building something bigger, but she had also generated amazing PR already. She knew how to tell a story. She had a great story. I could see that sort of traction. So her drive as a person and the traction that she had already been able to do, that made her, in my mind, a winner, like worthy of investing in. Where some people come to me all the time with the best ideas in the world, and I think, you've been sitting on that idea for 10 years. What have you done with it? Yeah. And it's like, why would I give you money if you're not able to show that you can actually do something with your idea?
Yep. And so, like, when you're taking these ideas, you're meeting with these people, do you ever get enticed to say, I don't just want to be an investment partner, but I want you. I want you on my team. Do you ever kind of look at, like, when they're just like, this is a rock star, but their idea sucks, or it's just really strange or whatever? Do you ever just say, I'm taking this person, and then bang, they're hired and they're a part of your enterprise?
Yeah, I've never done that. I've thought about it just a drop. I think it's my love of entrepreneurship that would keep me from really doing it, because it's like, anyone that I'm going to be really impressed by is going to be really passionate about their own sort of thing. And so I out of respect for that, I don't think I would pull. But what I would do, of course, and have I done this? I probably have done this. is if something fails, because businesses do fail all the time, right? Certainly, some of mine have. One of them that I mentioned, I got to fix my bio that my apprentice gave you, because one of the businesses even that you mentioned at the outset has failed. But fine, businesses fail all the time. I could take an entrepreneur with a failed business that I still believe in and either invest in them again or partner with them to come on board for another business.
Okay, interesting. And like and I know I'm kind of digging a little bit here on like the person part, because you said that is most important. As it's funny because I've gotten different outlooks, and I'm at a stage now of hiring, and it's like scary for me. It's maybe something that I drag my feet on. You hear the saying, slow to hire, quick to fire. But then I have a lot of my clients that are extremely successful businessmen and women that are like, yeah, it doesn't really bother us that much. Like if we see someone we think is pretty good, we say, let's give it a shot. Let's see how it goes. What's like on your take on that? Like, can you meet someone over a Zoom call and get a good vibe in a half-hour conversation and bang, they're a part of your team or your business? Or do you got to meet them, shake their hand and so forth?
No, I'm not old school in that way in any way. Very rarely do I meet people in person these days that I hire. I had a call earlier. I knew within 3 minutes that I was going to hire the person, and I did, and she was just great. So first impressions are huge. Yeah, 3 minutes, 2 minutes sometimes, right away. And while I love the hire slow, fire fast adage, I think a very interesting competitive adage is hire fast, fire fast.
Okay.
There's some downsides to that, of course, but the bigger issue is the much bigger issue than hiring fast, firing fast, or hiring slow, firing fast is that I see all the time is hiring slow or hiring fast and firing slow. The big issue is for people holding on to non-productive employees, and I have seen that for, oh my goodness, decades. It's such a huge mistake that so many people make. They're so afraid to fire people. They're so afraid of conflict. They're so afraid of having to do all the work if they fire people, or fill in the blank. People make up countless excuses about it, but it is absolutely essential. And you mentioned you're looking at hiring someone. It's scary to bring people on, especially at first, but it's almost always the better move, right? In order to build more freedom in your life. That my next book is all about delegating and giving people more time and freedom in their lives by hiring people, by delegating.
Sure.
So I do think it's really important and valuable when folks can do that.
In that vein, like when you bring someone on, do you try and, because I've seen different schools of thought, do you try and bring everybody in that has some piece of ownership in the company? Maybe not actual equity, but perhaps like all their income is, or a large part of the income is tied to bonuses and productivity. Or are you more of, hey, this is your job, this is your salary, be glad you have it, do it, or you're out? Because I see more and more of this kind of, everybody needs to have ownership in their role. What's your take on that?
Well, it depends on the size of the company and the stage of the company. The reality is, the larger companies get, the harder that is to implement real equity. I mean, I guess you could do options. I guess I am for opportunities for folks to have ownership and for folks to have upside. Maybe it's because I'm such an entrepreneur myself that I think like an entrepreneur, and I want folks to think that way too, and I want to have skin in the game. I think ultimately the most important thing isn't though what I think people need. It's managing to people's own motivation. So there are some people for whom equity is really, really valuable, and that's what's going to make them run through a wall. There are other people that don't give a crap about it and will run through a wall if they're getting health insurance or if they're getting X salary or whatnot. So it's really thinking what's going to make this person really committed to
kind of case by case basis.
Yeah.
Cool. And then pivoting a little here, kind of switching gears, you're an entrepreneur at heart. You got a lot of businesses and things, but you're also a best-selling author. So that doesn't just happen by accident. I'm an author. I know it takes a lot of work. Sometimes it's a blast. Other times it's like, why the heck am I doing this? Um, do you look at yourself in the mirror as a businessman or as an author?
Um, Interesting question. I love when people ask questions that I'm not asked a lot. So that's a pretty good one. But I'm still not going to answer it per se. First of all, I'm going to say I'm going to say I look at myself in the mirror as a father first, no doubt.
Okay.
Husband second, entrepreneur third. I think of my authorship. I've done 5 books now, and so of course I could think of myself as an author having done 5 books, but I actually think, and I guess it's because I'm an entrepreneur, I think of my books and my authorship as entrepreneurial. It's a way that I can scale my ideas and share my ideas with a larger group of people. Now, it's not as lucrative as entrepreneurs, as traditional entrepreneurship, but I clearly don't make as much money no matter how many books I sell from that as I would a successful business. But the idea of solving a problem and scaling is still there, right? So my book on delegation, Get Over Yourself, that comes out in March, I'm solving a problem. People suck at delegation. They're either micromanagers or afraid to delegate. And I'm solving that problem, hopefully, with a book that hopefully lots and lots of people will read and use. And so I think of that as that is, to me, entrepreneurship. I just don't have all the upside because I'm not the publishing company, but that is essentially entrepreneurship.
Okay, interesting. And then another one I wanted to throw at you, because you do have such kind of like a diverse array of pursuits.
Yes.
Looking really big picture here, what do you want to change about the world right now?
Wow, another great one. Well,
And I know you got a limited window here, so if you can put you right on the spot.
right, that's a really big one. I mean, we're recording this interview in early December of 2023. I'm going to say that for some context, with for those that are listening or watching later. And 2 months ago, I'm Jewish, and 2 months ago, October 7th, was a pretty big. It was very impactful for me. What was impactful, obviously the attack on Israel was impactful, but for me, even more impactful has been the impact of protests and divisiveness on college campuses throughout the U.S. I am deeply concerned about the state of affairs, and if I could change one thing about the world, it would be less hate and more conversations, more civil conversations, so that because I don't really see a lot of good answers out for this issue and many other issues that where people have so much hate and anger built up versus a more civil dialogue.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think you hit the nail on the head. And kind of in that same point, because I do a good amount of speaking, on college campuses, and I saw something about one college in particular, I'll leave nameless, that just shocked me. And I was like, I can't believe that this is a professor at the school. And either they don't know what this person's saying, which is a problem, or they do, and they're giving it a stamp, which is an even bigger problem, in my opinion. And I just didn't really want to go back to talk there. And I know that doesn't have some huge influence on the campus, but what you alluded to it, what's going on in academia, and you're, one of the people that's brought in. You're not on the inside, but you're a good resource for anyone to bring in and have as a speaker. Do you try and kind of wield some sort of influence at all? Or do you think about that, of how you can have a positive impact, especially on these schools?
Yeah, well, so the company that I'm most focused on right now is Apprentice, a marketplace that connects college students and entrepreneurs and business leaders. And so I do have an impact in as much as we have thousands of college students that we interact with, and I've been very clear about my policy and our policy as a company. We are a safe place for students of all backgrounds, and I am Jewish, and insist upon a safe place. So for students of all backgrounds, and so I draw the line, and I'm very concerned that a lot of colleges are not drawing, or are drawing the line in very strange places, very, very strange places. And the same schools that were like reprimanding students and faculty members for being insensitive about pronouns, those very same schools are now tolerating calls for genocide on their campuses. I mean, it's to me, it's like, why? It's wild. And I mean, we could talk for hours just about this, but it's a very dangerous situation, and I am completely committed to taking a stand about this and any issue that I care about. I think people have a responsibility. Like, we only live once. If we need to speak up about things that we care about. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, kudos on that. I agree. And just last point on that, Apprentice, your company, which is awesome. I'll put a link in the show notes to that. Have you ever thought, I know that's like in the epitome of academia, you're dealing with some of the best schools in the country. Is there a version of that you foresee that's like outside of that realm, like maybe even in the trades or anything like that?
Well, the long-term vision is to help the students that need the help the most, right? So right now, we do have students at quite a few very good schools, very so-called elite schools, so-called top-tier schools. I'm not even going to mention them because, just like you, I have very mixed feelings about some of them. But and that's who our clients want. That's the talent our clients want. So I have to build a business that's sustainable, that's based on demand. But over time, absolutely, my vision is to help students at community colleges, students at historically Black colleges, students at smaller state schools, the students that there are lots of very, very smart and driven students who haven't necessarily had the experience, the network, the family to get them into a place where they could be at those so-called Ivy League schools, but they are absolutely still smart and driven and hungry. I would love the future of Apprentice absolutely is in catering to those students. I just need to build a sustainable revenue model first with the caliber of students that my entrepreneur clients and business executive clients expect, if that makes sense.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah. So you're getting there. That's pretty cool. So I know you're on the clock here. You got to run. I just want to hop now to the lightning round, which, if we can, and it will really be a lightning round here. So are you good with that?
Of course. I love a good lightning round. Hit me.
Here comes mine. Number one, what is your favorite book?
Give and Take by Adam Grant.
Okay. And your favorite movie?
Field of Dreams.
Oh, I love it. Favorite vacation that you've ever had or destination?
I love, that's a hard one. I love so many. I'll go with Amsterdam.
Okay. Never been. I've been over in Europe a number of times, but not there. Do you have a quote that you live by?
Yeah. Seth Godin, great marketing executive, author, etc. How dare you settle for less when the world has made it so easy to be remarkable?
And who was your hero growing up?
The best mentor, and you can share a link to an article I've written because I don't have time in the speed round, but I can share a link to the article I wrote about meeting him on a plane. Frank Lautenberg was an amazing, amazing man that I met on a plane, who was the late senator from New Jersey and also built a 40,000 employee company called ADP. Amazing, amazing guy.
And you're busy as could be. How much do you sleep at night?
I'm very, very fortunate. I only sleep 4.5 hours a night.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you have a time for a hobby? And if so, what's your favorite hobby?
I have lots of time for hobbies thanks to my ability to delegate. I play tennis twice a week, so that's probably number one. I play poker every week, and I'm playing the World Series of Poker as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And finally, what's next on the agenda for Dave Kerpen?
So the Get Over Yourself will be my focus. So that the book that comes out in March, and building Apprentice, and hopefully doing some more good in the world.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for the time and the insights here. I think it was very helpful. We crammed a lot in here in just a short episode. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Brian.
Yep. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Caderna podcast. I'm Brian Caderna. Had the pleasure of speaking with Dave Kerpen today. Please, wherever you're tuning in, leave us a review, subscribe, spread the good word, and we will see you next time. This podcast is intended for the general public and for informational purposes only. The show does not provide any recommendations or investment advice regarding any specific account type, service, strategy, or product, or to otherwise act in any fiduciary or other capacity. Please contact a financial professional for guidance and information that is specific to your situation. Brian Caderna does not provide tax or legal advice. Please contact your accountant or legal advisor to discuss your situation. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Caderna Financial Team, and opinions stated are their own. All investments contain risk and may lose value. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. References to specific securities, asset classes, and financial markets are for illustrative purposes only and do not constitute a solicitation, offer, or recommendation to purchase or sell a security. Brian Caderna is a registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS. OSJ 300 Broadacres Drive, Suite 175, Bloomfield, New Jersey 07003. Phone number 973-244-4420. Securities products and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA SIPC. Financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Caderna Financial Team is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. California Insurance License Number 0K04194.